January always seems to be one of those months that take forever. However, I feel like this January flew by. How is it February already? In this video, I am going to review the month of January. Did I hit my goal of making $1,000 of extra side hustle income? What did I pay off in debt? And how did my budget look at the end of the month? After that, we will go over February's budget and set up the month for success, I think. If you're interested to see how January went for me, just keep on watching. Hi, welcome back. I'm Jen, and if you're new here, thank you for joining me today. I am on a debt payoff journey, and I am learning how to manage my budget, manage my finances, and use those skills to be able to pay down my debt. And like I said, today we are going to go over how January went, and we are going to review what's in store for February. I am going to go ahead and open up my laptop and share my screen. I use a spreadsheet for my monthly budget, and I will share that spreadsheet up on the screen so that you can follow along as I talk through all my numbers. And I will go over each section, which includes my income, my monthly bills, variable expenses, as well as what I am planning on saving. So let's get into it. Okay, so up on the screen, I have the January budget spreadsheet, and we will go ahead and skip over the summary, but I do want to point out that I have $3,054 here as starting balance, and that is the money that came from my last paycheck of December. In December, I did get paid 3 times. That last paycheck was like the 29th, the 30th of December, and it pretty much went to cover the first 2 weeks of January. So that's where that starting balance came from. I feel like I'm operating maybe a paycheck ahead, which is great. If it stays that way, hopefully I can make that work. And then eventually I am going to be saving to get to a 1 month ahead point. I don't know how long that's going to take me, but I think I'm going to do it little by little. And eventually I will be able to budget 1 month at a time, and I'll have all that money saved ahead of time. Either way, that wasn't what this video was about. So we will go ahead and skip down to the income section. We'll go over the rest of the summary later. So for income, my first paycheck from my full-time job, I had budgeted $3,054, and my actual amount was $3,067. For my second check, I had budgeted $3,000, and that was supposed to account for my insurance premiums going up a little bit. And luckily, they didn't go up like a crazy amount, but my deductible did. So my premiums just went up like $20 to $40, but my deductible went up a few $1,000s. I think it went up so much that I don't think I'll ever really see any benefit from my health insurance, but better safe than sorry, right? And then the other reason why I budgeted only $3,000 was because I had gotten a notice that my 401k contribution was going to increase. I forgot that I had it automatically set to increase 1% every year. So it was going to increase to 6%. I wasn't going to change it because I wanted to see how it impacted my check, and then maybe I can just absorb that so that I can invest an extra percent. But it hasn't kicked in yet. So my actual paycheck for my second pay period was $3,067. I will go another pay period and see if that kicks in. And if it doesn't, then I will either contact my benefits team at my company or contact Fidelity to find out what's going on. Then for Shipt, I have the 4 weeks that I budgeted at $400. This was actually a pretty decent month for Shipt, even though the weather was so bad this month. I ended up doing okay. It seems that I did less orders than normal, but the people that do tip, because not everybody tips, but the people that do tip seemed to have tipped a little bit more than normal. So for the first week, I made $684. The second week, $408. The third week, $527. And then the fourth week was $493. And then for reselling, I made $601. I posted the video for reselling, like what that 601 was made of, right before this one. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out, see what I sold. But anyways, $601 for reselling. Then YouTube, $384. And then in other, this is two separate things. One is an HSA reimbursement of $437, and that was for some contacts that I purchased. You'll see that charge in unplanned expenses. But the rest of it was $500 and some that I had saved at the end of December that was going to be used for an extra debt payment, and that is rolled over here, and that is what that $938 is. And then from savings, this $337 is the 40% that I have decided to use from my prior YouTube checks. So that was in savings, and I moved that over into income because I was going to apply that to debt in January. So that is what that $337 is. That brings my total income for January $10,506. So now we can go over to monthly bills. And most of them are about the same. So my mortgage is what I budgeted, $2,137. My HOA actually was a little bit higher because this is the first month that the new amount went into effect, but my auto payment was set to the old amount and I thought it automatically updated, but I guess I thought wrong. I had to manually update it. So I had to go in and manually make a payment, and if it wasn't part of the auto payment, they charge a service fee. So that's why it was $320 for me this month, but that's not, I changed the auto payment now, so it'll be $315 next month. My gas payment was $88, ComEd, my electricity, $135. My water bill was a little bit less this month, so it was $54. My Verizon payment was also a little bit less. I got a credit for something, so it was $224. My Comcast security was $70. T-Mobile, my internet, was $70. eBay, my eBay store was $22. Vendu inventory management was $25. Spotify $17. Netflix $18. Google Nest $10. I have the two Google storages, one for $2, one for $3. And then I have iStorage for $42. That brings my total monthly bills to $3,237. Now we can go to the variable expenses. And in variable expenses, it's kind of all over the place. To be honest with you, I went over in some areas, I was under in other areas. It kind of balanced out, but we'll review it. So for groceries, I budgeted $850. And my actual amount was $741. So that left me with $109 for the month. My gas for my car was also lower. So I normally budget $400. This month it was $302. Now that's not going to be every month. This month my son did fill up the gas for me one week, and I didn't drive as much this month as I normally did. So I think that also saved a little bit in gas. So that left me with $98 remaining for the month. My water delivery, I know you guys love when I talk about water delivery so much. This will be the last time it shows on my monthly budget. I had $40 budgeted. I ended up spending $60. So that's over by 20. What I ended up doing was my delivery for the month, I added extra water jugs. So that way I can reduce how many deliveries I get going forward. And then I am going to absorb water delivery as part of my groceries. And for February, I'm going to increase my grocery budget slightly to accommodate that. I am still going to actively work on continuing to reduce it, but I'm not going to reduce my budgeted amount until it's lower for a few months consecutively. So if I can save $109 every month for the next few months, that would be awesome. But we'll see. We'll see how that works out. For eating out, I had budgeted 150, which was already reduced from the 200 I used to budget. And then I only spent $30. And I probably could have made that zero, but I am actually pretty pleased with the fact that I only spent 30, and that was for a coffee, and I think I bought a lunch one day. I don't remember. Either way, it was $30, which I was very happy with. And so that left me with $120. I do feel that part of this is because now I have to pay for eating out as well as groceries in cash. And when I have the cash in my wallet, I kind of don't want to spend it as much. So that helped. However, for personal care, I did go over. And I did review this, and it's not anything like that I bought impulsively, but they were things that I didn't budget for. And so I had 50 budgeted. I ended up spending 186. I lost my gloves. Probably, I think on the coldest, snowiest weekend of the month, I lost my gloves. I've lost one glove, but what can I do with only one? So I had to buy a new pair of gloves. And then Tarte was having their 40% off sale on Shape Tape. And one of the staple items that I use every single day is this Shape Tape Glow Wand. I don't even think I use it correctly, to be honest with you. I use it kind of like a tinted moisturizer, which that's not what it is. And so I probably use too much of it, and I need to really find a product that I like, but I don't want to waste money trying products. So I stay using what I like. And anyway, they were having their 40% off sale. So I bought a few of them to have them because they were 40% off, but I didn't have it budgeted. So I went over a little bit because of that. But I was okay with it because, like I said, it was things that I normally use, and I really thought about the purchase before I made that one. For household supplies, I had to buy all the normal household supplies, garbage bags, paper towels, toilet paper, all that stuff. I had 100 budgeted, and I used 93. So I had $7 left over. Miscellaneous, I had $1 left over. So I budgeted 200. I ended up spending $199. Oil change. I had $150 budgeted for my oil change. It came out to $110. So I did save $40 there. Unplanned is the $437 that I used for my contacts, which did get reimbursed from my HSA. And then rollover, this $3,067 is what I am going to roll over into February. That is my second paycheck of January, because in January I got paid that 29th of January. I don't know, that like last Wednesday of January. I am really rolling over that money to February to cover the first 2 weeks of expenses for February. That ends up leaving me for variable expenses. I spent $5,225. However, that $3,067 really was going over to February. And so what I actually spent was $2,158. Still a little bit over my budgeted amount, which was $1,940, but not horribly. We can now go to the debt section. For my debt section, for my upgrade loan, I paid the $760 that I had budgeted. Oh, my Chase card. My Chase card, I did pay $227, which was the minimum. There's some things that I want to talk about with this Chase card, and we will talk about it when we get into February because that minimum is changing. But anyway, for January, I did pay the minimum amount. My Capital One card was $139, Nordstrom card $89. My PayPal credit card, the minimum ended up being $116, so that's what I paid. And then my Apple card, I had it budgeted for $313, which was the minimum, plus my subscriptions that I have on Apple, plus my snowball amount. But I ended up paying off my Apple card. My total payment with what I paid earlier in the month and then paying it off was $1,567. I am very happy about that one. I did not have a payment that I needed to make for US Bank, even though I had it budgeted, so that was zero. my Gem Med Spa payment plan, 40, North Shore Medical payment plan, 72, my car loan, 659. And then I added that lawyer affirm payment that I talked to you about a few videos ago, and it was not budgeted. It was $621 is what I ended up paying for the month. So I had the minimum payment that was due earlier in January. And then I paid it off, which is the amount that I shared with you guys in that one video. So that was $621 total. And then I did have a $7 TJ Maxx payment that I had to make to pay off the interest on that card. And now it's done. And so my total debt payment for January was $4,297. That is a lot of money. Do you know what I could do with $4,297 if it wasn't going to debt payments? Like, oh, it hurts. It hurts so much. Anyway, better that it's going to pay off debt than being wasted on other things right now, right? I cannot wait for the day that I have that money in my savings instead of being paid off to creditors. It is what it is. We can now go to savings to see how much I saved for the month. And I have here, my emergency fund is $100. My home maintenance, I ended up just putting $80 in home maintenance and vehicle maintenance, even though I had $100 budgeted, because I wanted to pay that debt off and I didn't want to pull anything from my emergency fund. That's one thing that I didn't say. For my Apple Card payment and that lawyer, I ended up not having to pull anything from my emergency fund. I had enough money with the extra income that I made, plus the money that I had saved for extra debt payment from December, plus the debt payment money from my YouTube money. I ended up having enough for the month of January to pay off my Apple Card and to pay off that lawyer and not have to pull from my emergency fund. I was actually still able to contribute an extra $1,000, I wish, an extra $100 to my emergency fund. But I did not contribute the full $100 to home and vehicle maintenance. It was $80 and $80. And then I have broken down my YouTube payment. So from that $384 that I got from YouTube, $96 went to taxes, $57 went to my rainy day personal fund, and then $76 went to what I'm going to use for various sinking funds and savings. The debt from YouTube, I didn't break it out. It just kind of got absorbed by my income and was applied to my debt. This general extra debt savings here, this $245, this was actually, so in my reselling, if you saw my reselling video, you probably already saw that, but I sold a Prada jacket on eBay, and eBay does allow 30-day returns. And so the money that I made from that jacket, which is $245, I ended up just putting it into savings for right now because I want those 30 days to pass before I see this as money that I could use. So this $245 is sitting in savings. Once the 30 days pass by, then I could either move it to a different savings bucket or apply it towards debt. So for the month of January, I saved a total of $734. And that is January. So if we go to here, we can see I have $67 left. That's going to just sit in my checking account. I'm not going to put it in anywhere specific right now. This left to budget, total budget, these are always messed up because of the fact that I don't budget all that extra income. So that sits there. And then I do have some summary numbers that I wanted to share. I have it on my notebook. So give me a second. I did share that one goal that I had going into 2026 was to try and make $1,000 of extra income above the $1,600 that I already budget for shipped. And for January, I made an extra $1,497. And this is the extra money that I made from Shipped, the reselling money, the YouTube money, and that's it. I think that's all I did extra this month. So I did surpass that $1,000 goal this month. It will be awesome if I can surpass it every month, but if I can just hit 1,000 at least for every month, I would be happy with that. In my debt, I wanted to kind of summarize some of my debt payments. My required debt payment, which is my minimum plus the snowball amount, I paid $2,488. Now, I wish that was all applied to my debt, but that is obviously principal and interest, so not all of that went directly to my balance, but I did make an extra debt payment of $1,809 this month. So I am very happy with those numbers. My goal is to pay $1,000 over my minimums, and that's why I had that goal of making an extra $1,000. I did just that. I'm very happy with the way January ended up. I know in some areas I have some room for improvement as far as spending. I know I messed up and put some money on my credit card this month. I did pay it off. But the fact that I did that was a little slip up for me in my thought process. I am aware of it. I am working on that going into the next few months. But overall, I feel like January was a very good month. So now we can go into February. I have the February spreadsheet up on the screen now. And in this summary section, you will see I brought over that paycheck from January, $3,067. We can go into income. I put my income for W-2 pay for my full-time job to $3,000 for both weeks. We will see what that looks like for February. And then for each of the 4 shipped weeks, I left it at $400. I am not expecting, let me knock on wood or something, but I am not expecting the weather to get worse. I feel like January might be the worst of it. So I comfortably feel that 400 can be reached for each weekend in the month of February. So I left that the same. As always, I don't budget for reselling or YouTube or anything else extra. So my budgeted income for February is $7,600. We can now go to monthly bills for February. So for monthly bills, everything is about the same. I did reduce my Verizon to $230, and then my Comcast is lower. So I called Comcast because I realized that the credit that I'm supposed to be getting for having an auto payment was not being applied. So they applied that. So now my new monthly payment is going to be $62. But going into the following month, it should be less. So in March, it'll be even less because when I called them for this auto payment discount, I realized that they were still charging me for equipment for the internet when I used to have internet with them. So a couple of months prior to doing this, I used to have my internet and security with Comcast, and then I started having some problems with the internet. They wanted to rerun a new line. However, my line goes through the 2 buildings next to me, or the 2 townhouses next to mine, and the HOA wouldn't allow Comcast to run a new line. Remember when I said that HOA gives me such a hard time for everything? Well, they wouldn't allow them to run a new line, so I ended up having to get a different internet company. So I ended up going with like T-Mobile's 4G or 5G wireless internet. Anyway, when I canceled my Comcast internet, they were here at my house. They took the internet equipment with them, and they never credited or stopped charging me for it. And on the bill, it's not super obvious. So I ended up getting that removed. They did apply a credit. So I think my bill for March will be a lot less. And then going forward, it'll be $50, something like that. I don't know. But either way, it's not going to be $70 anymore. So for February, I do know it was going to be $61 something. So I budgeted $62. T-Mobile, my internet, $70. I have here Apple subscriptions, which is new, and that is $28. And what that is, it is my Apple Care subscription as well as my iPhone storage, or my Apple storage. And that used to be charged on my Apple card. And now that my Apple card is paid off, I don't want anything charging on that. So I will be paying for that separately. And that is $28. Everything else is the same, except I do have a new line item at the end, which is my Canva subscription, which I had mentioned that I renewed. That is that. And monthly bills, the budgeted amount is $3,282 for the month of February. Now, variable expenses. For variable expenses, I have here my grocery/water. Just so I'm not hiding water, I'm just not having it as a separate line item because, I mean, no one else talks about like what is included in their grocery budget. I'm sure plenty of people buy a ton of soda or whatever drinks or beverages of their choice. I just drink water. I don't drink anything but water and coffee. That's it. An occasional energy drink. But I just feel that water should be included in my grocery budget. So it's there. And I am budgeting out $860. So it's not very high. I had $850 budgeted before with water as a separate line item. So I only raised it $10, even though my water bill last month was $60. So I'm still trying to save money with my groceries. I am trying to make sure that we are using everything in the house before we buy new groceries. We are meal planning. We do our grocery shopping online. And when I say we, if you're new here, I live with my son and my daughter. They are technically adults. My daughter is 23. She is not working a paid full-time job currently. Just 2 weeks ago, her paid internship ended. She has not been able to find another full-time internship that was paid or even a full-time job in her field. So she is currently doing an unpaid internship just to gain more experience to be able to find a job. But either way, long story short, she does not contribute to groceries because she doesn't have the money to contribute. She is living off of money that she has saved, and that is what she's paying her phone bill with, and that is what she's paying for anything else that she needs for her personal care. But I am covering groceries. My son, he buys a lot of his own groceries. I have the staples here at the house. He's able to eat that. And then anything that he wants that's specifically for him, he buys on his own. So we are trying as a family, we are trying to reduce this grocery budget. I am trying to get it to be more like $750, $700. That would be ideal. But for now, it's $860. It is what it is. We have to eat. Gas, I have $400 budgeted. Eating out. Now, I know it's still like some people are going to tell me I shouldn't be eating out, but that's fine. It's fair. I used to budget $200 a month for eating out. Last month, I reduced it to $150. I am trying to actively reduce this even more. So for this month, I have it lowered to $130. I may not even use it. Last month, I only used $30. But we are budgeting $130. I would rather have it budgeted and use it if I need it, or have it budgeted and not use it and have extra money. I am not budgeting for personal care or household supplies this month. Hopefully that's not a mistake. I tried to think of what I would need to buy this month for personal care, and I could not think of anything specific that I needed to replenish. So I left it for $0 because I went over so much last month. Household supplies, I don't need anything. I bought everything I needed last month. So I am good for household supplies, I think, for this month. I do have that $200 budgeted for miscellaneous. So if anything pops up, it will come from that. I don't have anything else budgeted for February. I'm hoping that we can have a good, like, no spend month. We'll see. So for variable expenses, my total budgeted is $1,590. You can go over to debt, and this is where I wanted to have a little chat because everything is pretty much the same. I'll go over it, but My upgrade loan is $760. That's my minimum. It's always going to be my minimum until I pay off that loan. But my Chase credit card, I knew this was coming. I've been talking about it. The 0% interest ended on my Chase credit card. I am not paying like back interest. This is just new interest going forward. So my new minimum on this Chase credit card is $455. I know I was expecting it, but it's still hard to see that it went up that much, especially since it was like for a while, it was like 100 and something when it was 0%. So this Chase credit card, I think I shared, is a 27% interest credit card. And it sucks. It sucks. It sucks to see $455 be my minimum. And so I was thinking, I am probably going to get eaten alive in the comments for even thinking about this, but this is just something I'm thinking about. I'm considering. I just got my bonus from work a few days ago. And that bonus was going to be applied to pay for my taxes. But I was thinking, and I did some research. I asked ChatGPT to do the math for me. I've did some Google searches too. And I will talk to the guy who does my taxes. He's also an accountant. He has done my taxes for a while. When I was with my ex-husband, we owned a business and he did our business taxes as well. So I trust his guidance. And I have always, for the last 7 years, I have always owed taxes. My ex-husband always worked 1099, plus we had the business. And so we, with our incomes combined, whatever, we always owed taxes. So I have an idea of how much I have to owe this year. I'm pretty familiar with what it is. I am prepared for it. This is getting long-winded because I don't know how to spit it out. But I was thinking, would it make sense to use my bonus money to pretty much pay off my Chase credit card? So I have enough to almost pay off the whole thing. I would have a few $1,000s left over, which I can probably pay off fairly quickly. But then I would probably have to get on a payment plan for whatever I owe in taxes. And I am only considering this because from my research, the interest rate on a payment plan for my taxes would probably be, I think it was like 6 to 8%. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I've been able to gather from my research. Again, I have not talked to my tax guy. But it was between like 6 and 8%. Even if it was 10%, that would still be less than the 27% I'm paying on the credit card. Would that make sense? Would it make more sense to use that money to pay down my credit card and then just get on a payment plan for the IRS? What are the downfalls of doing that? From anybody that may have personal experience, what would be the downfall? Like, why should I not be considering that? Because that's kind of where my mind is at right now. But I don't know if that's a good move or not. Again, I haven't made any decisions. It's just something I'm considering. So I wanted to share that here just in case maybe somebody else is in the same boat thinking the same exact thing. I would appreciate if anyone has any feedback or thoughts or experience. You can let me know what would be the better move. Should I just take that money and pay my taxes and stay the course? Or should I consider paying my credit card and then getting on a payment plan with the IRS? I don't know. So either way, for right now, my minimum payment on my Chase credit card is $455. Because that went up so much, I had to take some away from my snowball amount that I had. So if you remember my Apple credit card payment, that snowball amount was $313. And that was going to be applied to my next credit card that I was going to work on. So from that, I took some of it to put it towards my Chase, and the rest is going to go to my Nordstrom card, which is the next card that I'm working on because that one has a 29% interest. So my Capital One is $139, and now my Nordstrom credit card minimum is going to be $173. My PayPal minimum is down to $116. I don't have a payment on my Apple card. My US Bank card is going to be a $50 minimum. My Gem Med Spa, $40. North Shore Medical, $72. And then my Capital One auto loan, $659. I am considering paying off that Gem med spa payment plan. If I make enough this month, I will pay off that gem med spa and then work on Nordstrom, unless I decide to do the whole thing with the Chase card. I don't know. But either way, my minimum payments for debt is $2,464. And then for savings, I am just going to commit to putting $100 in my emergency fund and then $75 for home maintenance and vehicle maintenance. And then whatever I make extra for savings, I will disperse somewhere in there. But I am committing to at least that $250 to savings. I don't feel comfortable not saving any money and just putting everything towards that. And I know 250 isn't a whole lot, but I do believe that month over month it will add up. So at least I know I'm putting a little bit away. And that's that. That's what I have so far for February. So it says I have $3,081 left to budget. That's because I'm bringing over that money from January's paycheck. I am then probably going to take that last February paycheck and roll it over to March until I get to that next 3 paycheck month. And then I will almost be, I don't know, a month ahead. I think that works out. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when we get there. I don't want to think that far ahead. But as of right now, I am 1 paycheck ahead. So to sum that up, my budgeted amount of income is going to be $7,600, adding in what I rolled over from January, and that is my total. So this is my summary here. This is everything that I talked about, and yeah, that's it for February. Now, one question, if you made it this far, one question that I did want to ask, and if you can answer me in the comments, that'd be awesome. I have been considering breaking this down and just having my month in review be one video and then my next month budget be a separate video. Would that be better than having one long video? I don't know. That's my question for you today, along with that whole Chase credit card question. If you have any feedback for me that you want to share, please feel free to leave it in the comments. I try and respond to as many comments as possible. Usually the day of and day after I post the video, I can see all the comments. When they start coming in later, sometimes I get notified of it and sometimes I don't. So if I missed your comment, I apologize. I do try and go in there and see all the comments because they just mean so much to me. But again, if I miss a comment, I apologize. I'm just doing my best over here. But that's it. That's all I have for this video. Hopefully it has been helpful for me to share this. If you're on a debt payoff journey, I am rooting for you. I know we can do this. We can make it happen in 2026 and beyond, because it's going to take me more than a year to pay this off. But we can make it happen. I have faith in us. We can do it. Anyway, I thank you all for joining me on this journey and reviewing this with me. I cannot wait to see you in the next one. Bye.